Hello there and welcome. My name is Prado, and I'm a member of the Victoria University Cyberpsychology Group. I'm going to be talking to you about the topics of my research this year, and that topic is internet gaming disorder and social engagement. Video games are a relatively new entertainment industry, and one which has been rapidly evolving. Since their origin in the 50s and popularization in the 90s, they've grown in complexity and scope, so that foul gambling, competitive esports, free-to-play monetization schemes, and advanced social environments are all possible in modern internet gaming. Furthermore, this advancing complexity is being matched by the advancing popularity of video games. The world population of gamers is currently about 2.5 billion, up from 2.2 billion in 2017. Furthermore, the rates of video game use are much higher in developed countries, particularly for younger demographics. In Australia, 97% of households with children have video games, and 67% of all Australians play video games. In America, over 60% of young Americans aged 18 to 29 and 90% of teens aged 13 to 17 are playing video games. So the effects of video games, whatever they may be, are likely to be far-reaching, to start from an early age, and to grow with time as older generations die off and younger generations grow up within this preponderance of gaming. This is significant as while games do have some positive effects, they can reduce stress, stimulate cognition, and potentially increase overall well-being, there are also significant drawbacks related to this, however, particularly in the areas of sleep, physical health, mental health, and most importantly for this study, they can produce addictive behavior patterns in risk-prone groups. That is where this study and the concept of IGD comes into play. With interest in studying the addictive effects of gaming increasing, the APA recognized internet gaming disorder as a provisional mental health disorder in 2013. It is defined by 9 symptoms, and these symptoms are preoccupation of gaming, withdrawal symptoms in the absence of gaming, a tolerance for gaming such that increased doses are needed to create the same high, an inability to reduce one's own playing even when a subject wants to, a loss of interest and participation in previously enjoyed activities, persisting in gaming even when it's obviously hurting you, deceiving those close to you as to the nature of your gaming habits, using gaming to escape from negative moods, and finally, that these habits put your life at serious risk in terms of loss of opportunities in relationships, i.e., it is a persistent engagement with video games that takes over one's life to the point where you can't willingly stop it, and it impairs normal functioning. The area of interest with regards to IGD that I chose was heterogeneity in IGD. Not all gamers experience IGD the same way. Latent class analysis has shown that there are between 3 to 8 different profiles of IGD, and that they vary in terms of symptom experience, motives for playing, and impulsive behaviors related to gaming. This is significant, as if gaming addiction varies between a number of set profiles, then these profiles can be investigated separately in order so clinicians can better tailor treatments to members of these profiles. To serve that function is the purpose of my study. To accomplish this, my study would have the following process. Gamers were tested on their IGD experience, and using latent class analysis, we sorted them into profiles. However, I took the next step of then taking these identified profiles and comparing them on the basis of some other factor. And the factor that I ended up choosing was social engagement, which refers to the extent of an individual's participation in social groups. It's actions that you do that engage with other people, such as voluntary work or holding someone's hand. It's related to social support and social networks in that social engagement behaviors reinforce social networks and create a wider base of social support and vice versa. Social engagement was chosen on the basis of its significant effects on the individual, as well as its links to internet gaming disorder. Namely, Social engagement appears to exist in a circular relationship of gaming disorder like thus. With my topic of interest and constructs chosen, I decided upon the following two aims: to advance and clarify past knowledge on the typologies of IGD symptoms, and to innovatively expand the empirical evidence considering the association of different IGD typologies with social engagement behavior. To do this, a sample of 1,032 participants aged 17 and up who were familiar with video games were chosen. They were tested on the IGD SF9 as well as with 4 socio-demographic questions for a targeted online survey. Latent class analysis was then used to first identify the optimum model and amount of classes before chi-square tests were used to compare these classes on the basis of social engagement. The first stage of my LCA analysis indicated that out of 32 models first compared, models with classes that had varying means of symptom experience, equal variances, and zero covariance were the best fitting for my data. I then compared the 8 resulting models that were left over that fit this description based on their AIC, BIC, entropy, NMIN, and BLRT. Unfortunately, no one model was a standout winner. And thus, to identify the correct model, AIC was plotted against the number of classes and an elbow point found. As you can see, the elbow point here occurs at 4 classes, and so this model was chosen. Descriptive tables were then used to compare the size of the classes, and z-scores of the mean symptoms experienced of each class were plotted so as to compare the classes on their symptom experience. The classes were arranged largely in an ordered progression of symptom severity from 1 to 4. Furthermore, symptom 5 showed particularly greater differences between the groups. In terms of absolute scores, however, preoccupation and escapism were consistently higher than all other symptoms. Based on these results, the classes were labeled thusly: the IGD aversive gamers, the normative gamers, the moderate IGD risk gamers, and the high IGD risk gamers. For aim 2, when comparing the classes for employment status, I found that there was a significant relationship of low-moderate effect size. As IGD risk presentation became more intense, lower rates of employment were detected, indicating lower formal social engagement. When comparing the classes for education status, I found that there was also a significant relationship of small effect size. As IGD risk presentation became more intense, individual odds of achieving higher education levels decreased, indicating lower formal social engagement. No relationship, however, was detected between social engagement and romantic status, and only a very weak relationship was identified between IGD presentation and living status. As IGD risk presentation became more intense, individual odds of living alone or in an intact family with a partner or even in stable accommodations decreased, indicating low levels of informal and formal social engagement. The takeaway message here is that there are 4 distinct typologies of IGD that represent different intensities of IGD experience. The vast majority of individuals fell within the normative and moderate IGD risk groups, indicating that the vast majority of gamers have some experience of IGD symptoms, but not enough to indicate that it is destroying their lives. Formal social engagement is also shown to be negatively linked with high levels of IGD expression. However, more informal types of social engagement may be largely unaffected. The implications of this all are that gaming addiction may in some way be explained by a diaphysis stress model, i.e., gaming itself may not be wholly to blame, but the individual vulnerabilities may influence the individual towards addictive behaviors exhibited in IGD. Furthermore, we can see that the vast majority of individuals have some kind of minor experience of IGD symptoms, indicating that IGD symptoms are quite widely prevalent in the gaming population. Further, we can see that a model of IGD with 4 distinct classes is supported, and that symptom 5 appears to have the most diagnostic power. In terms of social engagement, high IGD presentation seems to have a negative relationship with social engagement, particularly formal social engagement types such as employment or education. This may indicate that clinicians may want to center treatments around raising levels of formal social engagement, perhaps through interpersonal psychotherapy, which has proven more effective than other treatments when it comes to resolving interpersonal conflicts and difficulties. Of course, the limitation here is the use of demographic indicators of social engagement. This limited my diagnostic power and the specificity of results. And here is how best my study should be improved upon and continued into the future. Using a participation profile, the Maastricht participation profile, will increase diagnostic power. And if you look at things longitudinally, perhaps by testing the same subjects over and over again over an extended period, we can gather information on how these relationships evolve over time. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you guys have a good time. I hope you learned something. Please contact me if you have any questions at dion.tull@prado@live.vu.edu.au.